Hi there, my name is Anne-Marie Toulon from My Innate Vitality, and I'm here with my good friend, Hamish Niven, who is a shamanic practitioner, among other things. And we're here to have a chat about shamanism, spirituality, and all things energy healing, I guess. Good morning, Hamish.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much for inviting me this morning.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Um, how about we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Right, okay.
The
Where
launch.
do we start? Where do we start? I think let's start about 6 years ago. 7 years ago, I was living in Cape Town and life was getting difficult. And I found a lovely way to cope. It was called alcohol. And I was drinking too much and came to a point where I had two choices, the absolute clarity. I could either keep going and crash, die, kill somebody, whatever, who knows, horrible thoughts, or go to rehab. So I checked into rehab, and that's where I realized that things weren't working for me. And in rehab, I re-met spirituality. I was brought up a good Christian, and thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, etc., etc., which also was part of my problem, was old beliefs. Um, but religion turned into spirituality and was transformative. And then a couple of years later, I bumped into shamanism, and that was just like, coming home. I remembered it. It made sense. It was just like being wrapped up in the biggest hug of wonderful memories and love and everything. And yeah, it was wonderful, absolutely life-changing and life-affirming that
Okay.
I had made the right decisions on the right path.
Okay. And well, I mean, when you say bumped into shamanism, how did it appear to you? I mean, did you hear about it or a book or
Um, I was on a course and I met somebody. We got talking. 9 months later, we started going out. One of her friends said, "Oh, let's do this book by Kenton." Can't remember the lady's name, but anyway, it's a shamanic book. And that was it. Picked it up, and it's just like it was like having all the lights coming on and the doors opening, and so it was join the dots. But it was a book, and then we started doing that, and then I found a lady up in west of Scotland who was running programs and stuff. I joined that. And then about this time last year, I signed up to a shamanic course, and it just, it escalated, and it was just spectacular.
okay? And do
Mm.
you do you feel that there's a part of you that always knew about shamanism, or it maybe in a different maybe different terminology, but was it like something that you'd been looking for, like coming home as such, or was it just like a all of your questions were answered in that moment where you discovered it? And have you always known about it?
I have not always known about it. I mean, I've met it. I've met it. I lived in Africa, so there was the witch doctors, the ceremonies, all of that kind of stuff. I was au fait with that. The sangomas, um, but I had not met it within a Western culture. Um, but it didn't answer all the questions. It opened up an awful lot more, but it was just like, here's the right direction. And yeah, I've done it before. There's no doubt about it. It's like, for me, I'm a photographer. I pick up a camera, I know how to take a photograph. It's obvious. Shamanism is obvious. The nature aspect of it is obvious. The trees are magical, full stop. Mountains are magical, lakes are magical, full stop. Um, it just makes sense. It's as complicated as that. It makes sense. As I said, it's like coming home. It was literally like being given a tool that you knew how to use, and it made sense and made life easier.
Okay. That's yeah, I can completely relate to that. That's how I found,
Mm.
like, I took a slightly longer route to getting to shamanism, but it was that thing where all of a sudden it was like all of those stepping stones I had taken got me to the point where I started from almost.
Mm.
um, and have you got any real world kind of uh, examples of how your life has changed as a result of shamanic practices and shamanism?
That's an interesting question. Um, I think it's an awareness. It really is. You know, I will, however busy my day is, I will go out for a walk in nature. And, you know, I'll go and talk to the plants. I'll go and walk past, I mean, it's spring at the moment, so I'll walk past all the spring and smell the blossoms and, you know, touch the nettles and touch the holly and just connect.
Okay,
Um, so there's that there is a massive sense of peace and gratitude, which is new and exciting. So very much that. Um, the journeying, when I do my journeying, that is spectacular. And sometimes it's dauntingly spectacular. Um, I mean, I did one a few weeks ago. I record them, so I got drumming and then I record it. And I was talking through, and suddenly I'm a shaman. I'm a in shaman, and it's just like, okay, where did that come from? You know, and that came from deep within my soul. So you know, that was a realization. I have done this hundreds of lifetimes, and I am. You know, Uh,
fantastic.
again, it's one of those strange things. It's like a certainty.
Okay. And
Mm.
when you mention journeying, just for the
Mm.
people who are listening who haven't actually experienced a shamanic journey, do you want to give a little bit more details about what a journey is as such?
What a
Put you on the
journey
spot
is, right?
there.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Um,
How
okay,
would you describe
it's
it to someone who has never heard about shamanic journeying or shamanism at all? I mean, where would you start with someone who's new to this completely?
okay. Open your mind, believe nothing, everything that you've learnt up to this date, put to one side, and just be prepared to not challenge everything, but gracefully be open to other stuff. Because you're visualizing, you're imagining. We're not taught as adults to use our imagination. Children are, but then it's beaten out of you once you get to school.
Absolutely.
Um, End of politics. But so it is that you're using your imagination, but then, you know, where does it stop? Where is it your imagination and you're bringing in memories or thoughts or patterns or getting intuition? It's beautifully fuzzy. So that's why you have to be open-minded. Um, because, you know, the whole idea is to you have a drum beat between 4 and 7 beats a second, so that helps you bring in that theta wavelength of relaxation and meditation. So you've got a repetitive drum beat, and then, you know, you close your eyes and you visualize yourself going into the ground or wherever you're going to go, and then spirit guides. And, you know, well, why will it be a slug? Why will it be an elephant? Why will it be this? Why not?
Yeah.
And then it's a lot of metaphor. So the journeys aren't necessarily obvious. You know, a house isn't necessarily a house, but it's a case of following your thoughts and not trying to influence them too much. And however ludicrous they are, or embarrassing, or funny, or painful, or whatever, um, it's that, you know. And, you know, case in point, without going into too much detail, I was Robin Hood for a few minutes on one of mine, and I was following. Then I became behind him. He became Pinocchio, and then I went off on that direction with a gyroscope in my hand. And, you know, then you have to think about what that means to you, and it's always the first thing that comes to your mind is going to be the right one. So you translate
Yeah.
that journey, those images, those thoughts.
And a lot of trust.
Um, yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not going to make sense.
Yeah.
Hence the being open-minded and being prepared to have your preconceived societal beliefs questioned, I think
Yeah.
is the nicest way of describing it.
In a beautiful
Um,
way.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not scary. And then you do it with someone like you, with someone like me, and we've got a bit of insight, and we will encourage you. I mean, I won't tell you that, yeah, you saw Robin Hood, that means this. you had a gyroscope, that means that. I will
Yeah.
ask you why. What is it? Because it's your journey. I haven't
Yeah.
walked in your shoes. Um,
And that's what a shamanic practitioner or a counselor does.
mm,
We're not here to heal anybody. We're not here to guide anybody with our own beliefs. It is we literally are holding space for someone to like step into their own power and the empowerment
mm,
involved. But there's a lot of trust involved. I know for
yeah.
me, a lot of our colleagues as such, we would have talked about transforming into animals in their journeys. And I had never had that experience until recently. I did a journey and I was a horse. And it was such an unusual, so there was a horse and then I became the horse. And you're kind of like sitting there kind of going, well, this is a little unusual. But you just have to go with it. You just have to trust in, because there's
Mm,
obviously the message or there's a metaphor involved, and you just kind of go, okay, let's just see where this takes us. Because at the end of the day, that is your subconscious is giving you messages, and it's probably not always giving you the messages that are, there's no signpost for life. It is sometimes there's a whole jumble of things of how we've interpreted as well as we went along as well. So um, it is about being open and just relaxing and stepping into it and just
mm.
trusting the process. And sometimes things are not always clear. They won't always come out as clear as day. But I don't know about you, but generally, if I've seen something I don't completely understand, it becomes very obvious to me over the next little while of
Mm.
what I've seen, and can just go, oh yeah, connect the dots kind of thing. I don't know. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, it it very much is connect the dots, and a requirement is an open mind. A requirement is to spot the synchronicities. It there's without a shadow of a doubt, it is absolutely around changing your perception of reality. It doesn't mean that you suddenly got to become a religious guru and go and sit on a mountaintop and go the rest of your life, but it does mean that you have got to challenge with compassion and curiosity everything.
Nice.
Why do I do this? Is it mum's fault? Is it dad's fault? Is it school's fault? Whatever. Not fault, is it whatever? It's you have to challenge stuff because life is more meaningful than going to work and having kids and coming home and watching Netflix and repeat.
Yeah.
So you have to be curious and be prepared to do the work.
Yeah.
There is personal development involved with it. It is part of that, a huge part of that.
Yeah. And what benefits can you see that these practices can bring to people who aren't on a energetic healing or spiritual healing journey?
Um, it's a conversation to find out where you are. But basically, my sense of it is from what I've done of it, I'm gentler. I'm more compassionate. Doesn't mean I'm a walkover. Doesn't mean I've got no boundaries. It's quite the opposite. It means I'm walking along with my feet in the ground rather than hovering fluffy. And it's not spiritual woo-woo. It's not this toxic positivity and love and light. It's real. It's grounded. It allows you to say no to people when they walk over you. It allows you that space and that confidence. Um, it allows you to understand why you are prone to maladaptive coping habits, also known as addictions, or why you do this, or why you seek validation, because we all do these things, but it brings you awareness.
Yeah.
And then with that, you can challenge, why do I do that? Well, I do that. Well, I know if I'm going to ask for help all the time, I'm giving away my power. I'm actually capable of doing that. I'm just giving it away because I'm lazy, can't be bothered, because it makes them give me energy. It's not a minefield, but it's just a realization that we worry too much, we give away too much, and we try and make life far too easy and safe, when really life isn't about experiences and having fun and being uncomfortable from time to time.
Yeah. I think it's also it's about taking back or allowing people to recognize that they do have power over their own healing, over their own life, over their own choices. I think
Mm,
we live in a society that doesn't teach children that their own power is worthwhile. It's like,
yeah.
if you're sick, you go to the doctor, which obviously if you're sick and you need to go to the doctor, we should definitely go to the doctor. But there are other things that we can do for ourselves. It's like we are, as a society, disempowered as such. So it is about, recognizing that there are other options for you, and taking control of your own choices in your own life is something it's a little scary for some people who've never actually
Mm.
had the opportunity to do it. So this is one of those beautiful ways to show people that they have the ability to do so, and the benefits that it can bring them, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
do you think shamanism is for everybody, or are there? I know there are some things that this. Well, I'll let you answer the question. Do you think that shamanism is for everybody?
Um, yes, I do. That doesn't mean it is for everybody. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, but yeah, it's breathing's for everybody. Um, Absolutely, it's been around since we clambered out of the trees and realized that rock was pretty and that tree was amazing, and so it's ancient, and so absolutely, it's in all of our cores. And I believe we are. I don't believe. I know we are spiritual. We are more
Yeah,
than 9 till 5, 8 till 6. So we are spiritual, and it is a way of being spiritual. So it is available for everybody.
yeah,
Absolutely. Doesn't mean you have to take it up, because, this person's journey is science, pure science, and they are going to go and create something that will do nuclear fusion or do this or get people to Mars, and they haven't got time, the capacity, the energy, or the interest in spirituality. Fine. Whereas other people, it is going to give them that support from traumatic upbringing, allow them to heal. So yeah, it is absolutely for everybody.
okay. And what is your favorite part of the practice?
Um, I love the journeying, even though it actually terrifies me is not right, even though I struggle to do it sometimes. I love being out in nature and just going along and then just watching the birds and the feeling, and walking past a tree and then looking back at it when I walk past, because it sort of like tapped me on the head, sort of emotionally or whatever. Um, Peace. I'm peaceful.
Okay.
It's definitely made me more peaceful. It's definitely allowed me to, as I said, be more compassionate and more questioning, and be aware of when I need to make decisions and change things, rather than I might upset somebody. I'm frightened. I don't know what to do. It's empowering. It's empowering and it's peaceful.
Okay. And there's that connection to nature. You've mentioned it a couple of times. It's that real, a rock is not just a rock. Um, we, everything has a message, everything has a meaning and a reason for being here. And it's that real connection for, you know, each tree is an individual, just as humans are. They're all their own kind of being, and they're here for a reason. And just, little birds will pop out of somewhere where you may not have noticed them, but it's like, well, hello, what are you saying to me, kind of thing. And it sounds a bit maybe soft. I don't know. But you're walking along and you are really connecting in with, your feet on the ground, and, the clouds, and just taking a moment to be aware of the beauty that is around you it's peaceful, and it's that kind of, bringing us within, connection. We talk about animals and how they have um, instinctual ways of living, and that's that connection that maybe humans have lost a little bit, and reconnecting in with the environment, and being aware of what, because nature is telling you, giving you messages and giving you signals the whole time, and it's that reconnection back into how we once existed, maybe. And we've become increasingly disconnected from nature and from our environment, which it can lead to pain, it can lead to disassociation, can lead to lots of stuff. So that shamanism, bringing you back to nature, and that reconnection with your environment and yourself, actually is powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mm.
Do have you met any misconceptions about spirituality or shamanism, or uh, have you encountered anything that you've had to kind of like stop and say, hey, no, really, this is not what it is?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I'm 5 years clean from alcohol, so I'm on various Facebook groups and communities, um, and spirituality equals religion equals God equals Catholicism equals God equals I hate it, it brought me up, it messed me up, is a very common narrative, and that's their journey. I used to get involved with these conversations. I don't because um, there's no point. I'm not here to change your opinion. I'm here to show you what works for me. Um, so I see lots of inconsistencies, lots of challenges, but that's fine. It doesn't
Mm.
matter. There's 6, 7 billion people on this planet. If everyone's thought the same way, you and I'd be out of a job.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's fine. And it saddens me sometimes in the same way you listen to people who are spiritual bypassed or this toxic positivity, everything has to be love and light and it's all fine and fluffy and lovely. And, we all live in 5D and no, we actually live on this planet. We have to use money to trade for food, for clothes. Whereas some people just like to think it's all Palladians and stuff. And could be, doesn't really matter. That's their journey. My journey, my journey is on this planet, not 12 foot above it.
Yeah.
Um, doesn't mean my head isn't 12 foot above it or everywhere else, but I'm here, I'm having a three-dimensional experience: touch, taste, sound, hugs, intimacy, love, compassion, and spirituality, and talking to trees, and
Yeah.
you know watch a bat fly past, close my eyes and say, can I join you? And then suddenly there's this cacophony of bats squeaking and squealing, and I'm flying, chasing around after flies and insects and in the twilight, which is utterly magical.
Yeah.
Am I making that up? Doesn't matter. I'm there. I'm doing it, and that's my observation of my reality. And yeah, other people could
Okay.
think differently. That's theirs.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So you've stepped onto this beautiful path, less traveled. What has been your biggest healing learning on this journey so far?
Um, Awareness. I think that's going to be the biggest one. Awareness of unhealthy coping mechanisms. Of my, I was very codependent. I was very good at, well, my wife should know what I'm thinking because she's my wife, so she should know what I'm thinking. I mean, that's bonkers. Why should anybody know what I'm thinking? They haven't lived my experience, but that was me. I would get bitter and resentful, and you know, that's what happened. So I'm aware of that my way isn't the only way. Um, Bit of an eye opener. I thought I was perfect, and things like that. So absolutely awareness of triggers, awareness of what upsets me, irritates me about people. Yeah, I've got some scars on my tongue where I've had to bite it, but that's fine. Um,
Don't we all?
yeah. So and being compassionate, and even, which is the tough one for me, self-compassionate. At the moment I've had to stop. I've had to change things the last few weeks fundamentally. Um, and I've had to stop and smell the roses because things were going downhill, and that's fine. And 6 years ago, it took me 5 years to realize I had a drinking problem, and I didn't go back to drinking now, but I was in that same loop.
Yeah.
But it took me a week to spot it, and probably 6 weeks of not spotting it rather than 6 years.
Yeah.
So that awareness I've got from shamanism, from growing up a little bit more, from being more aware, from being more attuned, slowing down, which I have got from the shamanism, um, is saving my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is that thing, that compassion, that self-love. It's that, you know, we are 3D beings. We are here having this very human existence. And, it is that. while once it took you 5 years to recognize something, it took you five, it's that kind of like, well, I am going to have patterns. I am sometimes not going to step off the path. I'm not all woo woo love and light. I am having a human experience. I am going to yell at my kids. I am going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed and be cranky. But it's that moment where you go, oh, I have stepped onto a path I really don't want to be on. Okay, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I am a human being after all. I'm going to get up and I'm going to move on, and I'm going to treat myself with love and compassion and do better next time. And, maybe it took me a day to pick up something before, and now it'll take me an hour. So it is that case of recognizing that it's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be messy, and because life is messy sometimes, and to move on and have the blessing of being able to recognize when you're on the wrong path and go, okay, how do I change this? Not beat myself up about it, just move on and take that grace with me. So yeah, that's a beautiful lesson. It's a beautiful learning. What inspires you and motivates you to be on this path? And you're moving into well, you're already working as a shamanic practitioner, but on that journey, what inspires you to be able to bring this to people on this journey, on this path?
My experience, basically. I had unhealthy coping strategies. Um, and my drug of choice was alcohol, and I used that to numb, to isolate, to cope with what was freaking me out, and it worked. Alcohol works, drugs work, full stop. That's why people do them. They work, but then they stop working, and then they start damaging you. And I was in that space where they were damaging me. Um, and I've come out the other side of that, and I can help people who are going through that. I'm one of the superpowers I got from my addiction was I have broad shoulders. People will talk to me and burst into tears and tell me stuff they wouldn't tell themselves, and that's I hold space. That, um, yeah, that's really important that I can use my experience of addiction to help people the other side, people who want to get out of it. Um, there's more to it than that. It's I said, unhealthy coping strategies, it's unmet needs, it's codependency. I need to be loved. I wasn't loved as a child. I'm not good enough. All this kind of stuff is all we keep it and then we numb it with food, drugs, alcohol, sex, validation, whatever. It doesn't matter. Shopping. There are other ways of doing it, and this is that awareness I talked about. Aware of it, aware of eating, drinking, going to the fridge, drinking, whatever. I can help people move beyond that, because I've done it and I do it every day, and I have to do that, and I've got tools and strategies, and the shamanism just helps me with a framework to do that. And we can look at why are you doing that, why let's say you broken, I hate that phrase, but why do you think you're broken? That's better. Because one aspect of shamanism which we haven't discussed is soul retrieval.
Yeah.
And that basically is when there's an aspect of you that is missing. As a child you are perfect. Mum and dad have their own stuff. Maybe dad yelled at you once too often, so an aspect of you thought, I don't want this, and disappeared.
Yeah.
That is this soul loss. And then, so finding that, I mean, I was washing up the other week and suddenly thought, there's Hamish. There's a little bit of me left playing in the woods, in the dens, beautiful sunny day. I mean, I can see it, the trees, there's bees buzzing in the ground, and Hamish is there. I said, hey, what are you doing there? He said, I'm happy. I've got joy, I'm playing. And I said, you're going to come and join me? He said, only when you put more joy into your life.
Yeah.
I was like, cheers, dude. So I have to bring more joy into my life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to say, no chance, I'm happy, I'm here. Obviously, it needs to come, he needs to come back to me so I'm whole. But that's this soul retrieval part of it. And shamanism helps me, I can guide someone to, what's missing in your life, or can we find you? And I did it doing the washing up. I've had practice doing this. It happens every now and again.
Yeah.
But this is what's the magic of the shamanism is we can do this kind of stuff. And then there's the integration because, as I said, little Hamish wouldn't come back just because I asked him. He said, "No, mate, you've got to do some work. Um, it's not just abracadabra. No, it's not. There's no quick fixes at work.
First
Um,
recognition, and then comes healing, and then comes
yeah,
bringing them back. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And there's also another power aspect of it is extraction. So the
mm,
recognition that we pick up other people's energy, we pick up things we've held on to, holding that energy in our body, and that needs to be moved out
mm,
as well. So I had an
yeah.
experience actually a week ago where I picked up somebody's energy and carried it around for a couple of days. Literally, he had poked me in the back and I was still holding it. I could still feel it. And it was like the thing where I literally had to sit down and kind of do some work and extract that out because I had literally,
Mm,
I am going to use the word poison because
mm,
he
yeah.
did it with a very malicious kind of intent when he poked me in the back, and I carried it around for a couple of days. But I could
Mm,
feel that kind of seeping into me, and so yeah, part of shamanic work can be to extract things that you've picked up along the way as well. So it's all about healing and
mm,
yeah,
yeah.
being better.
And it is. And the thing is, it's real. We do pick up stuff. We do. Mummy died, daddy died. We don't want you to go. You keep that attachment, and they can't move on, and you're stuck. Um, we're not
You're
going to
all
necessarily
stuck.
go down the yeah, we're not necessarily go down the path of ancestral stuff, but so much stuff gets passed down there where you've got a grandparent, great grandparent, whatever, who's, let's say, got their claws stuck into you through beliefs or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, and it's yeah, it's not worldly,
yeah,
but it is very real.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is that too. Yeah, there's so many doors we could open up now and talk
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
um, what is the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice, probably. That's a difficult one. I mean, I'm not five. I've got 53 years of experience, so there's an awful lot. I'm not hedging. I'm just trying to think. Damn it, damn it. What's coming into my head the whole time and I'm avoiding is self-compassion.
Okay,
In fact, yeah,
beautiful,
I'm actually going to tweak that and just say zero judgment.
nice.
Because when you're aware of something that you weren't beforehand, you have no right to beat yourself up for it because you didn't know about it. Whereas
Yeah,
now you do, you can get curious. It's
yeah,
it's basically the same as, an apology without a behavioral change is a lie. So zero judgment.
yeah. And actually, strangely enough, that's a beautiful segue. Like I'm working with a lot of people at the moment, and there is a lot of the belief that well, I'm changing a lot of beliefs around. You know, you can't change the past. You can't change the future. You can't really affect the future. You can make certain changes to it, but you're never really going to be able to have a lot of impact on it. It is what it is. The only thing you can do right now is change now, right now, and it is that I have always done the best I could with the information I had at the time.
Yep.
So 5 years ago, it's all well and good. Hindsight is a 2020 vision. It's a the most perfect vision. And so I'm working with a lot of people who have really having to change that belief. I could have done this. I should have done this differently. I,
Mm,
you know, but I'm like, you're looking at yourself from the information and the knowledge you have now, that wisdom that you have gained in that last 5 years or that last 10 years. Just stop beating yourself up about the fact that you didn't do better then, because you can't change it.
mm,
You can only move forward with the knowledge that you have. So it is that thing. I've literally I've worked with a couple of people in the last 2 weeks where I was changing that belief that they have in themselves. I always do the best I can with the information I have, and it's not. If I had had that information 5 years ago, maybe things would have been different. But it's that kind of just less beating up, more compassion. Of you know, today I can affect what happens for in the future by my actions now, and I'm going to learn and continue to grow, and let that all go. Be compassionate for my 45-year-old self, my 40-year-old self, and what's done is done. So more self-love, more self-compassion, more trust that you know what you're doing. And effectively, I know you probably feel the same way. Made some really rubbish choices along the way, but it's when you get to the point of gratitude for your journey, because you wouldn't be where you are today without those choices.
Yep.
And there is that, shamanic healing. Shamanism is the wounded healer, the way of the wounded healer. So I do want to say no one grows from a place of comfort. There might be some people who disagree with that completely, but it is that thing. We grow from a place of wanting something else, or wanting something different, or sometimes pain. And that's the beauty of it. It's if you're comfortable, you're not growing. That's in my opinion. I think that's the way that it is. Those challenges, those roadblocks, those pains and hurts are the basis for who you are now.
Yeah.
So accept them and grateful for them, and then you can grow further. So I don't know. You've talked about being out and walking in the woods and connecting with nature as something that brings you back to yourself. Is there another daily practice that you use to connect back in with yourself, to ground yourself, and to connect with spirituality and healing?
Yeah, I meditate most days. I find that really, really useful. Really, really useful. Sometimes it becomes a journey. Sometimes it doesn't. I do that. I do my gratitude pretty much every day, but it's not just things I'm grateful for. It's also successes and wins.
Yeah.
Sometimes the win might be getting out of bed and cleaning my teeth. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Other times it's, life changing. So that's really important. I journal nearly every day, and I find tremendous value in that, because it's not just writing lists of things I've got to do. It's also that curiosity about, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? I irritated my dad yesterday. Why did I do that? Well, he's an idiot. No, I'm impatient. Why am I impatient? Because of, is that short story true? So it's joining those dots back, because one thing we do is, the story I tell you about me, I told myself that yesterday and the day before and the day before. The real story is 40 years old. And every time I've repeated it, I've added another word, I've embellished it, I've added to it a bit more. So all of our stories about how mum and dad were terrible to us and this, that, and the other, or our childhood was idyllic, have been repeated so many times. It's Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily true. My dad didn't love me, my dad this, my dad that. Utter nonsense. That's the story I've told for 40 years, 50 years. We've reconnected, which is one of the great things of being back in England after living in South Africa, after having to leave after addiction and recovery, is I've reconnected with my dad. And, I'm looking after him, and he's very grateful. And I have to every day say, my dad is grateful for my help, because my story is so deeply ingrained, which is nonsense, that it's just like, he's not interested. He is. So, the journaling is, why am I doing that? Well, this, well, that story is wrong because, and then reminding myself.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Notebook. Every day he had to sit with his wife who's got dementia, and then go back through her story, and then suddenly she'd go, "Hey, I love you." It's almost that. I have to do that with myself, just to remind myself that that story is not true, and that is true, and that's important. And it's a process, but it is so empowering.
Yeah.
And it's
Perfect.
magical, because it reminds me that I am not a failure. It reminds me I am awesome. That I can have a conversation with somebody that might upset them, but it's done with compassion. And it allows me, basically, it keeps me out of being a victim. keeps me in my power. And when I'm in my power, I can do anything. Um,
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you could give yourself, your 16-year-old self, some advice, possibly learned through the shamanic practices or whatever that you've learned, what would it be?
See, these questions are really interesting. I've had these several times. The one problem with that was if 16-year-old Hamish changed, he wouldn't be here today.
Well,
Um,
exactly.
so that's the only problem. I would say drink less. Don't use it as a crutch to shut up girls. Um, I would I would say spend money on experiences rather than healthy experiences, going out, traveling, that kind of thing, rather than um, keep curious and be open-minded. Um, yeah,
Perfect.
I
Awesome.
think that, and as you said, everyone is doing the best they can. I think that is. I have two lessons I teach people. One, you've got to believe everyone's doing the best you can, and the other one, I can't remember. The other one, well, there's several. The other one is you have to be open-minded because you tell me stuff. You see the world differently. You've got different experiences. If I'm not going to listen to you, I might miss a gem of something spectacular that I can go, wow, like shamanism, when I met it. If I hadn't had that conversation, this, that, and the other, I might not have experienced it.
Yeah.
Um, but 3 years ago, I made a decision to be open-minded. I'd said to myself, I'm going to listen to what anybody tells me, and they're not going to be wrong because I'm right. They're going to be okay. And that's when everything changed. Absolutely everything changed when I chose to be open-minded. And we're a closed-minded society, and if you don't like me, then you're wrong, or if you're wrong, then I don't like you.
Yeah.
That's just a recipe for disaster. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, then that's powerful because when you're open-minded, you will see a world that opens up in front of you, and you may not agree always. It may not be the time for you to have those experiences, but in effect, it's like opened a little doorway to
Mm.
that part of your soul, and you can choose to walk through or not.
Mm.
But what you will notice is that it's still there waiting for you when you are ready to move through onto the next thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful, powerful. Is there a question you wish I had asked you? And if so, what is it and what would the answer be?
That is a great one. What would I wish you'd asked me? Um, Maybe why is shamanism important to you?
Is that a question for me, or is that a question for you that you're going to answer?
I see. Well, yeah. Why is shamanism is important to me because it's allowing me to see the magic in the world. Um, yeah, I'm Peter Pan. We all are in some ways, and it does allow me to see the magic. I can go through the woods and I can suddenly say, "Oh, I'm going to look for fairies," and whether they exist or not, it doesn't matter. But I can walk through the woods and say, "Oh, there's one behind there," and I get goosebumps on my neck. My goosebumps, I get goosebumps. All the hairs on my arms are standing up, and it's a little game, and whether I see them mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, doesn't matter. But it's allowing that playfulness, and that's come from shamanism, from the drumming, from the journaling, from the journeying. Um, it's just bringing a bit of playfulness back, and hence Hamish in the woods. He's coming back and joining me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important because it's making me more grounded and rounded. Um,
Oh, I like that. Grounded and
yeah,
rounded.
grounded and rounded. Yeah. Um, and I think what's important, grounded in a way that I take less nonsense. I'm pushing the toxicity out of my life. Um, I don't need it. It's not necessarily a trigger. It's not necessary. If someone's going to be unkind to me, then you know I don't need you.
But also,
Um,
it's not taking things personally. It's like if someone's mean to me, it's more about them. than it is me. And
Yeah.
instead of entering into blame modality, like, straight away, it is that thing of it makes you more compassionate for them. It's like, dude, if you want to, like, if you must be in a hurry, I send you blessings as you go along, if you're like, passing me or cutting me out in traffic, for example. So yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, beautiful. Hamish, let's tell the viewers where they can find you, because it's important that people find you.
Very easy, Hamish Niven. So LinkedIn, Hamish Niven; Facebook, Hamish Niven; TikTok, Hamish Niven; email, hamish@hamishniven.com. Yeah, Hamish Niven. There's 7 or 8 Hamish Nivens in the world, and I'm the second most famous. Yeah, so you can find me anything at Hamish Niven, you'll find me.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for joining me today, and I will copy these links to your pages and stuff on the bottom of the video, and yeah, let's catch up soon.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much. I've
Brilliant.
really enjoyed this.
Thank you.